The time is 6:30. I'm calling to order the Blount County Board of Commissioners Agenda Committee meeting on Tuesday, July 8th, 2014. At this time, please look at the boards for the emergency evacuation announcement.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
At this time, please register your attendance.
Okay, you have 18 present, 3 absent. You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. At this time, I will move for setting of the agenda. Motion made by Commissioner Wright to set the agenda as published. Second by Commissioner Carver. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to set the agenda as published.
You have 18 yeses.
The agenda is set as published. At this time, I'll move for public input of items on the agenda. Anybody wishing to speak to items on the agenda? Seeing no hands, we will move on to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 10th meeting. Motion made by Commissioner Carver to approve the minutes of June 10th, 2014. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Moon. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to approve the minutes of the June 10th, 2014 meeting.
You have 18 yeses.
The minutes are hereby approved. Next is item E, items for the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to forward these items to the Commission's consent calendar. Motion made by Commissioner Samples. Do I have a second? By Commissioner Gamble. Any discussion? Commissioner Samples, is it for items E1 and E2? All three of them? Very well. Mr. Gamble, you agree with that? The motion is to forward items E1A, E2A, and E2B forward to the Commission's consent calendar. Seeing no discussion, please vote.
You have 18 yeses.
Items E1A, E2A, and E2B are hereby forwarded to the full Commission's consent calendar. I am not aware of anything underneath unfinished business. Does this committee have anything underneath unfinished business? Seeing none, we'll move to new business. We have budget transfers. From my understanding, we have no budget transfers. That will take us to item G2, budget increases and decreases. I have 4 items for budget increases. The first is General County Fund 101 for $10,000. Do I have a motion regarding these items?
Mr. Chairman, move that forward consent calendar, commission meeting.
I have a motion made by Commissioner Moon to move item G2A forward to the consent calendar. Do I have a second? Second made by Commissioner Harrison. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, you should have the clerk remind us that this is coming from already designated fund balance that is set aside so much from his revenue. And also the state is providing reimbursement for these printers and ribbons, so we can fully discuss this before asking to put it on the consent calendar, so everybody's up to speed on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clerk, you're recognized.
Okay. This is a new program that the state is implementing. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the procedure for renewing your car license. Basically, you get a notice from the state. You bring that notice into one of our offices. The clerk will scan the barcode, brings up the information. The clerk will enter a decal number off of pre-printed decals, process payment, print the registration form, staple the decal to the form, and give it to the customer. We've timed that, and it takes about 1 minute and 38 seconds to do each transaction. The state has proposed printing the decal with the renewal slip at the time of sale. They've started in, I think they initially started in Sumner County, and that has been running since last year. It's been very successful. There are several other counties now that are doing it, and it will speed up the process. In addition to speeding up the process, instead of having a decal number, you will have the license plate number printed on the decal. So if for some reason that decal is stolen, it will show up as not being on the right car. Everybody will know there's a problem. So there's increased security. In addition to that, we will not have to keep up with the inventory. That requires a significant amount of an employee's time to keep up with that inventory. So I think it's a win-win situation for everyone. The state will provide $7,000 toward the purchase of the printers. They will also provide the card stock that will be used to print the decal and the notice. So we've taken bids, or taken quotes, and it's going to cost around $10,000 to implement. So I'm requesting that we take money from an account that's designated for projects like this. It can only be spent for data processing type things in the county clerk's office. $10,000 from that account. So, are there any questions? But I will say it's not a game changer. It's a step for more automation, and I'm firmly convinced that automation is the key to keeping the cost of government down. So this is another step, and I'm real excited about the possibilities.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Seeing no other discussion, please vote to forward this item onto the consent calendar.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2A is hereby forwarded to the Commission's consent calendar. Next up is item G2B, Fund 141, General Purpose Schools, $47,531 for a state grant. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Lewis, seconded by Commissioner French. Any discussion? Mr. Fulcher, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What does this buy? What do we? It's a grant for energy efficient schools. What specifically are we buying here?
Mr. Logan, do you think you can answer this, shed some light on this for us, please?
I left my papers at the office. Ms.
Just use your
Farmer may
memory.
be able to help me with this. These are meters that help us monitor utility usage at some of the schools that we're proposing to put these things in.
Okay, so it's smart meters? Is that it?
That was called.
Don't the utility companies pay for those, or
Not that I'm aware of.
really? Okay. I'm kind of surprised at that, but go ahead. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks.
Mr. Farmer, you're recognized.
It's a constant read watt node meter. The utility companies do not provide those, not on your electrical. These are to where you can keep up with the time usage of electricity. And it will be put on some of the locations where we're having higher electrical usage during demand times. So that's just where we can keep up with it. It'll keep it to where it could be monitored on a minute-by-minute basis.
Thank you. That makes it clear.
See no other discussion, please vote to forward this on to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2B is hereby forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G2C, Fund 189, Schools Capital Projects for $177,045. I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner French to forward to the full commission. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Helton. Any discussion? Mr. Fulcher, recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If my memory serves me right, this came up several months ago, and I thought we voted money then to redo those tracks. What can anybody fill us in on the details here?
Commissioner Farmer, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, sir, we didn't get it completed before the end of the fiscal year, and it was not included in the budget for this year, so we had to go through the same process again, Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Seeing no other discussion, please vote to forward this on to the full commission.
You have 18 yeses.
Item G2C is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. Next is item G2D, Fund 101, General County for $1,361,506. I will entertain a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Lewis. Second by Commissioner Carver. Do I have any discussion? Commissioner Fulcher, recognized.
I guess we're going to have a presentation on this at the commission. Is that the plan here? This million three?
If this body wants the people that can give the presentation are here tonight, they can do it tonight. It is at the whim of this body as to how to proceed forward. Commissioner Moon?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Bill Raymer. If he'd come forward, please. We had a number of commissioners in attendance last night, the Budget Committee, and that presentation, I believe, is online, but you can't read online the graphics and so forth. And I'd ask unanimous consent of the body for Mr. Raymer to go ahead and do some of the key slides so people can that weren't able to see it. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my request, unanimous consent to present.
There is a motion been requested. We have unanimous consent to allow a presentation on item G2D. Is there any objection to the request? Seeing no objection, please go forward with a limited presentation.
Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Bill Ronner. I am a volunteer employee with the Blount County Sheriff's Office. I receive no compensation for the work I do there, nor am I receiving any compensation for my assistance on this project that I was asked to help on. It's a pleasure to talk to you about this tonight because Blount County has a business challenge. The good news is we have a solution that we can offer up to you tonight that will keep it from turning into a business problem. We've got approximately 2,807 employees in the county from every department that you're aware of. Most of them are paid twice a month. Some are paid once a month. Some are paid every 2 weeks. Got a total annual county payroll of $79.5 million. The good news is that most of the employees are paid by a direct deposit, so we've got very few manual checks that are issued. An employee's pay is determined by their annual salary or hourly rate, their holiday pay, sick pay, hours and days worked, hours and days not worked, sick days taken overtime. Their pay is triggered by the events that actually trigger an employee getting paid is the manual process of the employee or their supervisor recording the time that they worked, recording the time they were off sick or on vacation, reviewing and approving those entries by the manager and supervisor, entering those into official time records, the manual calculations that are done to calculate somebody's pay, the submission to central payroll by Excel spreadsheet, the aggregation, consolidation of that by central payroll, the review, auditing, balancing, and release, and then the ACH transfer to the bank. The only part of this process that is automated is the release of the payments to the release by the bank of the payments for payment and posting to the general ledger. Everything I've told you about is manual: the recording, the review, the approval, the entry, the aggregation, consolidation, review, audit, and balancing. Every bit of that's manual. If you were to walk into a modern fast food restaurant, you know how that process works. You'd be surprised if you were greeted by a customer service agent who manually wrote down your order, walked it back to the kitchen, and then walked it back when it was fulfilled, and then manually tabulated the cost of your lunch and the taxes for that, and then took the money out of a cash drawer. That's very manual. That's where we are as a county when it concerns our payroll processes. These processes are generally unchanged from 20 years ago, except for the use of Excel spreadsheets and email to move those around, the direct deposit, and then the automation of vendor checks. The good news is that our payroll timeliness is at 100%. Our payroll accuracy, we believe, is at 100% for about 98% of the employees. That 2% is manual mistakes, manual calculation errors, mistakes in reporting. There are hundreds of pay and work rules that affect an employee's pay. We did a study as part of the project team. By the way, this project didn't just fall out of the sky last week. We've been working on this for 9 months. Did a study and concluded that the county expends 932 hours of labor per pay period, recording, reviewing, approving, submitting, aggregating, auditing, balancing, and releasing payroll. That's the equivalent of almost 11 full-time employees in county government doing nothing but timekeeping and payroll-related processes because it's so manual. There are 104 critical players in the county touching the payroll and timekeeping processes. 68 of them are in the school system, 3 are in the sheriff's office, 31 are in other areas, and you've got 2 employees in central payroll here that are directly responsible for that tail end part of the process, the aggregating, balancing, auditing, reviewing, releasing, and approving. So you've got different work and pay rules and policies among the different departments. The processes are logical, but they're antiquated and very fragmented. It's 95% manual. It's expensive and time-consuming to audit our actual performance against legal requirements. Most importantly for this presentation is the county is vulnerable to miscalculations affecting employee pay, and they do happen. The county is vulnerable to the death or retirement or departure of key players in the process, and you have 3 of 4 key players leaving in the next 90 days. And you're vulnerable to the Fair Labor Standards Act audits, violations, fines, and penalties for non-compliance. We simply don't have the systems or the visibility into the data and the processes that we need in order to make sure that we're in compliance with all FLSA requirements. That's all from a payroll standpoint. From an HR standpoint, every bit of the HR process, from the application by prospective employee through the screening and testing and onboarding process, all the way through employment, and finally through retirement and death, every bit of that, every step in that process for Blount County is manual, and that's every form, I-9, W-2, W-4, life insurance enrollment, beneficiary designation, election of this group health plan over that group health plan, rejection or of acceptance of your vision or dental care. Every bit of this is manual, and Lord help the soul whose beneficiary doesn't get life insurance benefits because the beneficiary designation form got lost in the process, and it's happened. By the way, I've got David Herndon here from Courthouse, who's the entity, the solution that we'll hear about in a minute. He knows that kind of thing has happened before, and it can have some pretty catastrophic consequences. The solution we're going to tell you about in a minute is it automates all of these processes. There is some front-end work that's expensive and time-consuming, but it automates all these processes, eliminates the miscalculations, eliminates lost paperwork, puts accountability where it belongs, whether that's on the supervisor for managing overtime or whether it's on the employee for making sure they've made the right elections and the right designations. And again, continuing the manual nature of the human resources processes, long-term, short-term disability, life insurance, group health, COBRA processing, self-billing. All of these tasks are completed by one employee. That sounds familiar. All of these processes are done by one employee in the HR office here, whose budget has been cut by 24% in the last 5 years and whose staff has been cut by 70%. Again, their processes are 95% manual. You can't cut any more in that department, not from all of my life experiences in the workplace. One thing that's worth mentioning, open enrollment had previously been handled by vendors as part of what we purchased from them, part of the group health plans. We switched vendors last year. The new vendor does not provide open enrollment services as part of what we've purchased. We are not able to do it ourselves. And so if we don't have a system that automates open enrollment, as does the system I'm going to tell you about in a moment, you will have to outsource that open enrollment support function at a cost of $117,600 a year. If we were to be audited by an independent audit firm for our payroll practices, I'm back to payroll now off the benefits, these are the grades we think we would receive in these different categories. And I'm not going to read them to you. You can see them on your screen. This is the consensus opinion of the project team. Okay, in summary, we're operating pretty much the way we did in 1990, again, except for direct deposit, Excel, and email, and automatic vendor payments. You've got three critical players retiring in a few months. One critical player in the payroll process has already made noises about retiring in the next couple of years. The project team, that's composed of players from all the right groups in the county, estimate that there's a significant probability of some sort of a major disruption to the timely and accurate payroll execution in the next 12 months. We don't know what, how, why, when, or where it's going to happen, but we believe something significant will happen that will disrupt the payroll process. Okay, the good news is we recognize these business challenges and have the opportunity to correct them before they become a business problem. The county identified the risks and the need to eliminate payroll, to automate payroll, timekeeping, and HR functions, formed a project team, developed a request for proposal that was advertised publicly and sent to several vendors. Got proposals back from 10 vendors. Those were evaluated. We had 4 vendors make presentations to us in the spring. I'll skip who they are. You've probably heard of PeopleSoft. The one we're going to talk about tonight is Courthouse. Every stakeholder in the county who would be affected by the automation of payroll and HR processes, was invited to attend these presentations. Most groups sent representatives to most, if not all, of the presentations. One vendor named Courthouse, whose representative is here tonight, emerged as as the vendor whose system best meets our functionality and our needs and is user-friendly. They're competitively priced. They're in this business. They've been in this business, public sector, HR, benefits, payroll, automation, for 35 years. They've given us a live demonstration of their system in addition to the 2-hour presentation. They gave us the project team members playground access to their system for 5 days, where we were actually able to go in and view real data on fake employees and play around with the navigation and see how the system works. In addition, we went to Salem, Virginia, a city very similar to us in that they have law enforcement, they have schools, they have city government, they have pretty much the same departments that we have. They're at the tail end of implementing this software project. They could not speak highly enough about the vendor Courthouse, and assured us on 4 occasions during that 4-hour meeting that the system will do everything we ask it to do. And there were no reservations about that whatsoever. So Courthouse was the #1 rated solution. Their pricing's competitive. The software is logical and intuitive. It does what we need for it to do. It's been validated by other customers. They've been in business 35 years, and this is what they do. I'm moving fast through this. So in addition to automating the payroll functions that we talked about, it also automates all of the HR, the human resources functions that we talked about. There is a lot of work up front to load all of the employee-specific data into the system and to identify and load all of the business rules, your work rules, your pay rules that the system operates against. Once you have done that, the system is automated. So it automates HR functions, benefits, enrollment, open enrollment, payroll processing. Couple of pages, I'm just going to give you a second to look at the couple of pages of actual Courthouse customer results that have been published in different publications, the savings they've realized in different categories. Again, this presentation is available online. There are 2 solution options offered by Courthouse. One is a hosted cloud-based solution, and that's the one we're recommending. In that model, Courthouse host the system for us. They own the hardware, they own the software, they host the system. They ensure system security from viruses and other malware. They ensure system reliability, system redundancy, system failover capability with multiple servers in different locations, so that if one server fails over to another server instantly, and there's no disruption in service. This is their core business. This is what they do. That's why we're recommending that model. The other model, in that model, we purchase software licenses from them. We load our data. It is our data. It's always our data. We will always have access to it. We will have backup data files that we can access if necessary. And if we ever get mad at Courthouse, we can take our data and go home and play in somebody else's sandbox. The other model is we simply purchase user licenses and we run their system, their software, on our servers. And that puts John Herron and the IT group in the business of coming back to you periodically to buy a new server so that we can ensure the security, the redundancy, the failover capabilities that we need. This is a mission-critical software application. So we're recommending the hosted cloud-based model. This is just by way of summary. It doesn't say anything new that I haven't already said. Again, you're in a business challenge situation and you've got the opportunity to keep it from becoming a business problem. Okay, the last slide, and I need to get a little closer. This slide depicts over a 5-year period how much money the system costs and all of the license fees and the consulting fees and implementation fees, and it also portrays the savings over a 5-year period. The difference between the estimated savings, and this is a conservative estimate, I'll be glad to walk anybody through this who wants me to, but I don't want to take up your time needlessly. The total estimated cost of the project over 5 years is $2.268 million. The total conservatively estimated savings potential is 5.7 million for a net savings of 3.46 million over a 5-year period. Now, that's 5 years of savings versus 5 years of expense. 5 years of savings don't start till you've implemented the system, which takes about 9 months. One of the features of the system is that it's got audit trail capability. It tracks and records every change in data, who made it and when it was made and what the change was. And it also has as of reporting capability. So if you wanted to look at how the data was in the system on August the 17th of 2011, assuming that data was there, you can punch in any date into the system and it will tell you, it will display what the data looked like back then. So you have a complete historical record of all of the data. And on an employee-specific basis, you can look at every change that's been made to employee-specific data. Their name, their address, their beneficiary designation, their job title, their pay, benefit elections, that sort of thing. The business case is there for doing this, even if you're uncomfortable with the projected possible savings. Worst case scenarios, this system pays for itself. It eliminates the risk that you are exposed to with FLSA audits. It pays for itself, and it puts you in a position that you want to be in as a county. That's as fast as I can make this. Sorry it took that long. Oh, the summary page, yes. Thank you, Randy. Okay. You have a business challenge with out-of-date payroll and HR processes. The risk and cost of doing business are significant. This challenge is solvable. The solution's been identified over this 9-month project period. The risks that we've talked about, the FLSA risk, the exaggerated overtime, those risks can be mitigated. You can realize efficiencies and you can save money. The recommended solution's been evaluated, tested, and vetted. It can pay for itself 24 months. Forget the savings if you don't like that part of the equation. The system can pay for itself in 18 to 24 months. The business case is solid. I've been in this position before. I've seen people fired for standing up in front of skeptical audiences and overpromising what a system can do. I'm very mindful of that. I would not be in front of you advocating this if I did not think you have a business challenge that's worth solving and that this is the right solution. I don't like standing on thin ice any more than anybody else does, and this is a solid business case for this solution.
Any questions? Commissioner Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if Bill could give us kind of a snapshot of who was on this project team and what parts and what offices were represented. And I know the players changed during the process, but if he could just fill that out for us.
The core team, sort of the day-to-day operational aspect of this team, includes me. It includes central payroll, Ginger Whitehead, includes Susan Janot from accounting, Jody King from benefits, John Herron from IT, because he's certainly affected by this, Troy Logan from the schools, Susan, have I left anybody? And Donna Wheeler from the sheriff's office, and Teresa Johnson from purchasing. Thank you. The larger team, we've made every effort to make sure that every constituency is included, and that includes the elected officials. Every department in county government is on a distribution list where I send out occasional updates as to what's going on. We haven't had an awful lot to tell them to date other than we're working on the project, here's what it does, here are some of the opportunities. Most of the effort in the last month has been spent getting ready for this presentation and doing the math behind the business case.
Commissioner Moon, any other questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fault, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, I guess I've got a number of questions. It was stated earlier that the online charts are not readable. Can we get online charts that are readable?
We will make that happen.
Yeah, hopefully tomorrow.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Did I understand you to say you're a volunteer?
That's correct.
And you've been working on this for 9 months?
I have not personally been on this for 9 months. I've been on it for about 3 months, but the effort has been going on for about 9 months.
What's your background?
I spent most of my career at FedEx Corporate in Memphis. I practiced law for 10 years, the last 5 of which was in the legal department at FedEx. I had an opportunity to go into management, so I got out of the legal department, went into the risk management department where I spent about 6 years managing claims against the company, worker compensation claims, vehicle accident claims, and package claims for lost, damaged, and delayed packages. Then I went to revenue operations where I had responsibility for the accounts receivable for all of the company's U.S.-based customers who were paying from the U.S. In that job, I had responsibility for about $1 billion worth of receivables. And then I went into human resources and spent several years there where I had responsibility for the quality assurance of the employee benefit programs like group health and disability and life insurance. The company spent about $1 billion a year on group health plans at that point in time for the employees. And then they had an early out program, which I gleefully took advantage of in 2003.
The accounts receivable system, that sounds like your major exposure to large computer systems.
Yes, that was one of the areas.
Whose software was that, or was that internally generated software?
That was built in-house. To my knowledge, they're still using it. It was incredibly robust, but it was a mainframe-based system that used COBOL programming, and it was aging.
Yeah, COBOL would be ancient. You mentioned that there are 10 people currently doing this.
The equivalent of almost 11
Yeah.
people.
You also mentioned the savings chart. There's a lot on that chart. It was very difficult to read, so let me just ask, how much of the savings that you're projecting are the result of reducing people?
There are 5 categories of savings. One is not having to outsource open enrollment processes, because the system does that. The main category that involves the elimination of manual work is what they call administrative. If you are able to read it, that's the category. Chronos, with the assistance of third-party analysis, estimated that based on our payroll, based on the amount of time we're spending on this, that we could save $611,000 per year by reducing the amount of effort we spend on manual processes. We have dialed that number back twice. The first is in that line item. We assumed a 50% savings of their $611,000 for the first year, and then an 80% savings of that. And then there's a second line a little bit lower that essentially says if you're not comfortable with that number, let's take 80% of the total savings and get there. So I would say I don't have, let me go back to the slide, I can read it.
Mr. Chairman, that's on page 62 of the package.
What was that?
That
Page
part of
62
the
of the
savings
package.
contemplates about $488,000, and that part of it is labor. That is the reduction in effort that can be achieved.
Okay, there's a lot on that chart, and we're certainly not going to analyze that at a level we can ask intelligent questions in 30 or 40 seconds here. So we'll just go beyond that, but let me ask that whatever part of this is due to reducing people, are we actually going to reduce people, or are we going to spend all this money and still have the same number of people?
That the opportunity is there, and that's for people other than me to decide whether positions are eliminated or red circled and not backfilled when they become vacant.
That will certainly be a question that we'll have. You know, lots of times projects like this talk about eliminating people, but they never get eliminated, and you end up spending lots of money. If that's what we're going to do, this is probably not a good idea.
Well, except for the fact that if you take that line out of the equation entirely, you still have a system that pays for itself and eliminates or sharply reduces the risk of Fair Labor Standards Act. This system will bring management visibility into work practices, overtime practices, payroll practices that they don't have now. The data is our data. It's available. You can run reports in an instant that would take you weeks to run now.
Give me an example of the kind of insight this will give us into, let's say, overtime reduction that our management currently doesn't have.
Let's say you take a department in county government, whatever department you want, the schools, the sheriff's office. Anybody with the authority to get into the system and view that type of data, and that authority is limited, will be able to see exactly which employees are being paid overtime because they're working overtime, which managers are approving that overtime, and view all of that data on a roll-up basis and be able to do something. They don't have visibility to it now. All they know now is there's overtime and they're paying for overtime.
Well, I disagree with that because I know because I've gotten a run, and John can give people a run that shows overtime by person, and that information is available.
Is anybody asking for that data? Is anybody doing anything with it? This puts it
Well,
at their
if they're not
fingertips.
asking, that's not the fault of the system.
No, true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
The system we have can definitely produce that data if someone's interested in it.
This puts the data at the fingertips of the people responsible and accountable for managing
Well,
people and processes.
All you got to do is ask John, and he does a run, and you get it right now. So I have trouble with those kinds of savings because that information is available now. And I'm not going to try and analyze this whole chart. I'll have lots more questions at the commission meeting. You say Cronus was near the low bid and had the system you wanted.
I didn't say near the low bid. They're competitively priced
Yeah,
based on the...
I caught that you didn't say they were low bid. How close to the low bid were they?
I don't remember the numbers, but they were competitive. Most importantly, they were the only system that we were comfortable with as being able to meet our unique needs.
Yeah, but I have a very specific question, and that is, we had a low bid. How much above the low bid was Kronos?
I don't remember the number. I'll have to get it for you.
I'd certainly want that number at the commission meeting as well. And open enrollment, we've had open enrollment every year. Somehow we've handled it. You mentioned the number of 117,000. What's changing here? We weren't spending 117,000 on open enrollment in the past.
I'm going to let Don Stallion speak to that.
That's fine.
When we changed, US Able carried our voluntary benefits before. Part of US Able, they did have open enrollers that came in. When we changed to Humana, first year they did come in and do that because they were taking some of the premium cost off of the new policies. That was not in the contract. Last year, actually we had our Trinity benefits actually did a lot of work they didn't charge us for pro bono, trying just to keep up with it. We did it manual. It was a very labor-intensive process, and I've been told this year that they can't do that this year. That was kind of a one-time thing. This would help that. If not, we're going to have to go out and get a software that can do that for us.
Okay, so Humana did it up until now.
No, did it first year. This will be our third year with Humana.
Who did it?
The first
who
year.
did it this past year?
This past year we had Humana, but we did a manual enrollment. We handled it. People in my office handled it, and Trinity Benefits handled it. He actually went out and hired some additional help to be able to put through all the changes that were done on voluntary benefits.
Okay, how much money did you lay out to do open enrollment this past year?
They did pro bono this last year.
You didn't pay Trinity?
No, Trinity, I raised a fuss, if you want to know. I raised a little bit of a fuss, and we got taken care of this year.
Okay.
You know, the question is why Humana, and why does Humana not have it, and why does US Able? We were having problems with US Able. Humana was a little bit better benefit. Our employees saw some price savings on on their policies, but one of the things that they don't have in comparing with USABLE was the enrollers that come out every year.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Folds, David Herndon from Courthouse would like to respond to one of the earlier questions you asked me.
Sure. I'm anxious to listen here.
Good evening, gentlemen. Really, in relation specifically to overtime, what you can do with Kronos that you can't do now is your managers and supervisors will know that overtime will occur before it occurs. So you don't have to wait and run a report to see who's incurring overtime. Excuse me, your supervisors will know that before it actually happens. So when possible, they can make schedule adjustments. They can let somebody go home early. In public safety, they can determine if there's a staffing shortage, is someone calling sick or not. So, overtime, comp time, and those type costs, you make proactive decisions with Kronos rather than reactive. So that really has a big impact generally on an overtime situation.
Well, right now, I'm sure the supervisor has to approve overtime. I'm quite sure that we just don't let people work overtime without anybody knowing. I hope not.
With Kronos, the supervisor would know about the overtime before it actually occurs.
Well, if he's approving the overtime, he knows that now.
After it occurs.
No, if he approves overtime, it's approved in advance, I hope. I can't imagine that it's not.
Yeah, that would be, various different county departments would probably handle that differently.
I think we have tighter controls than that. The supervisor approves overtime in advance, so I still don't understand what the system's given us.
Yeah, I just wanted to make you aware that you'll electronically be notified, the supervisor will be notified.
Sure, electronically, and there's less paper, I understand that kind of stuff, but I'm not sure I understand the rest of it. Okay, I guess what we've got here is a major project, and there are lots of potential implementation problems which we've not even talked about. And it's a major expenditure. And I gather we're being asked to put it on the commission agenda after being able to look at it for just the time between now and the commission agenda. I think this deserves a little more thorough review. I think the commission ought to have 1 month. We'll take it up in August, but we ought to have a month to look into this and check into the numbers and talk to you and talk to other people to come to a full understanding of what we're into before we go spending the $1.3 million, which is just the beginning. Implementation of a system like this is inevitably going to be costly. Yes, it has the potential to bring great rewards, and I'm not opposed to it, but I think we need to have some time to look at it carefully. And a quick presentation and a few days to look at numbers, I don't think is an adequate review. So I think we ought to postpone action on this until the August meeting to give everybody time to look at it.
So, am I understanding that you have a motion to move this to the August
Yes.
meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That I think would be appropriate.
There is a motion made by Commissioner Foltz to move this item to the August commission meeting. Is there a second for his motion? Second made by Commissioner Birchfield. Any discussion on moving this to August? Commissioner Moon, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a considerable number of hours spent in preparing this and research. We also know that very soon we have people retiring. We also know there'll probably be a paralleling of the systems, I would think, for at least a month. We also have heard that there's a high probability of a significant problem in the next 12 months. There was a presentation made last night at the Budget Committee. This information's been online today. We have more than a week to look at and review. I'm sure everyone's available to answer questions. I spoke to Mr. Logan at length and some other office holders at length about this after the meeting last night to make sure that their needs were addressed during this period of time, and they told me they had been, and they did have issues in March and April. The research was done, the answers were provided. They asked some of the same questions in Salem, Virginia. I don't know what we're going to accomplish by delaying for 30 days. That's one reason I think we need to move forward and make a decision. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wright, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Moon that, we need to take this up right away. To me, this system is overdue. This is the kind of positive forward thinking that gets me excited because, this is the kind of automation that we need in the county to be more productive and more effective. And I applaud you for all your work that you've done. There's a substantial amount of data here that I'm definitely going to review it between now and the meeting, but I don't think we need to put this off until August. I do have a couple of questions on the security of it that I would like to come back to at some point, but cloud versus on-site. But, those type of things I think are the discussions we need to have. But I'm very excited about this, and I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Commissioner French, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the 9-member committee, 8-member committee you mentioned, core team, I guess in the last 9 months they've, with John Herron and Teresa and Susan and the rest of the members, I feel certain they probably come up with questions that you all were able to answer, and I hate to use this word, but I assume that all the core members are on board with this, and that's why you're here presenting us with this solution tonight.
Is on board with this project.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Mr. Fulcher, you willing to speak to the motion to move this to August?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's nice that a lot of people think this is the right thing, but we're the representatives of the citizens, and it is the citizens' money that we're spending here. And another 30 days to look at this and to frankly talk to some of the citizens who may know stuff about this would seem to me to be prudent. As far as having gone to Salem, Virginia, I'm quite sure Courthouse picked a very happy customer to take you to. I used to sell large systems, and I can tell you that I certainly wouldn't take you to an unhappy customer. But there may be some. I don't know. If Courthouse has 100% happy customers, they'd be fairly unique. So there's a little homework that I think each of us ought to do before we spend this $1.3 million, and it'll probably be more by the time we're done. Big systems like this are fraught with opportunities for problems as you implement them. Somebody said we'll overlap the systems 1 month. I'll bet it'll be longer than that. So I think it's just prudent. Everybody's taken 9 months, and we've not heard a word about it at this committee. 9 months this has been going on, and nobody mentioned a word of it. And now, it's rush, rush. You got 10 days to make your decision. Why wasn't this mentioned 2 or 3 months ago? It just doesn't make sense to me, the way we do things around here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing the board clear, please vote to forward this to the August meeting. That is the current motion that's on the floor, is to postpone this to the August meeting. So a vote yes will set this at the August commission meeting. A vote no, we will go back to the original motion that's on the floor, which is to move it to the July commission meeting. Does everybody understand what you're voting? A vote yes moves it to August. A vote no brings it back to discussion. Please vote. Mr. Harrison, if you're in the building, please vote him as being absent.
Yeah, 2 yeses and 15 noes.
The motion to move to August fails. We are back to the original motion, which is to move this to the full commission meeting in July. Commissioner Wright, you are next in line for discussion on the main motion. Do you have any questions that you'd like to address at this time, sir?
Yes, thank you. My question was around the cloud-based versus the on-site. I wanted to make sure that our local IT department is okay with outsourcing the security to an off-site location, and I'd like to know where that location, where those servers are actually housed in the United States.
Yeah, if you can speak into the microphone so we can hear you.
I'm sorry. John Herron, the Director of IT, is on the core team. He's been part of this project certainly since I've been involved, and he is in support of the cloud-based solution proposal. I think John's back there. If he wants to come out, that's fine. And Mr. Herndon can also address the location of the servers and the failover servers.
The primary server location is in the metropolitan Boston area, Waltham, Massachusetts. That's the primary data center, and backup data center is in the suburbs of Chicago.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Wright?
No, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Seeing no other discussion, no other lights, please vote to forward this to the commission meeting in July.
If 16 yeses and 1 no.
Item G2D is hereby forwarded to the full commission meeting. That concludes budget increases and decreases. Next is G3. We have 2 grants. And is it my understanding, Mr. Vineyard, that we need to vote on these grants?
Yes.
Then I will entertain a motion for item G3A, a drug court grant in the amount of $70,000. Motion made by Commissioner Kaler to move A and B. Commissioner Carver seconds that motion. Any discussion on grants G3A or G3B? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward these on to the full commission.
You have 17 yeses.
Items G3A and B are hereby forwarded to the full commission. Item G4 is an information only. Is Superintendent Dunlap in the room? Please come forward and provide us with some enlightenment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Uniform road law says I will inform this body of my state aid plans for the coming year. We will be doing the Middle Settlements Bridge through our state aid program, and our state aid paving will be Flats Road to Butterfly Loop this year.
Does anybody have any questions for Superintendent Dunlap? Commissioner Moon, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I ask that unanimous consent that his remarks be spread upon the minutes of the full commission meeting. Thank you.
Do we have any objection to his comments being included in the full minutes? Seeing none, they shall be included in the full minutes of our
Chairman.
meeting.
A little information, if we could, another couple items, if we could, please. Getting into the election cycle again, we started our mowing late during the primary. A lot of signs were out. A lot of those signs are being, as you well know, are gone. There are some more being out. We're going to start back mowing shortly. I would recommend any candidate, if at all possible, get your signs back off the right-of-way. There is an ordinance out there. So we're going to have to mow our roads. The rain is bringing them up. The Johnson grass is growing extremely hard and fast. So inform your candidates, if you would, please, to try to get their signs back off the right-of-way, if at all possible, okay? I don't want the damage. I don't want damage to my equipment. I don't want damage. I've seen those wires go into cars before. So they're pardon me, but they're a nuisance, a necessary nuisance, I guess. So work with me if you would, please. I hate to have to send a bill to somebody's treasury over something. So if y'all would, please, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, announcements and statements. I have actually a statement from Mr. Hatcher's office. He was unable to be here tonight to deliver it in person. The statement is as follows. The clerk's office, the circuit court clerk's office, has formed a partnership with Pioneer Credit Recovery at no cost to the county. The cost for Pioneer Credit Recovery will be assessed to the defendant. We will be turning over any criminal cases that are inactive prior to the last 6 months from their disposition date. The revenue collected will be turned over on our month-end reports and go into the general fund, and this will help the commission to hold down the tax rate in Blount County. I am estimating that the first year we will collect an additional $100,000 per year. In the future, we hope to reach higher goals than that. Other announcements is commission meeting will be on July 17th at 7 p.m. There will be a beer board meeting commencing at 6 p.m. with a public announcement or public hearing at that time as well. The Education Committee has been canceled for the month of July. On July 10th at 5:30 p.m. will be a special call Planning Commission meeting. These are all the announcements that I have. Is there any other announcements or statements from this body? Seeing none, we will move to public input of items not on the agenda. Anybody wishing to speak to items not on the agenda? Seeing no hands, I will move for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We stand adjourned.